Everybody, welcome back to Hanging at the Hangar Bar. So, Scott, I have a question for you.
Okay.
If there is one element of Disney, and be that in the parks or in a film or in a cartoon short, even, what's the one thing that resonates the most with you?
I think probably whimsy. Does that make sense? Like,
Hmm.
is that an appropriate word to use? Just like of all those things, like that lightness, that whimsy, that ability to kind of connect to the environment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I would say.
Okay.
Hey, welcome to Hangin' at the Hangar Bar. I'm Scott.
And I'm Candice. We're here to chat all things Disney as child free Disney adults. Stories, snacks, and a little magic along the way.
Grab a drink and get comfy and come hang out with us.
Welcome back to Hanging at the Hangar Bar, everyone. Today, we are going to actually talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart, and I think probably yours too, Scott, as musicians.
Yes.
But we are going to talk about the power of Disney music.
Ooh, good topic.
Yeah,
I like it.
I know. I think we can both agree that the power of Disney music has a lasting impact that actually can stick with folks long after the movie or their experience or whatever the case may be. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I would say more people walk out of Disney things singing the songs than they do repeating the lines.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So today we're kind of going to talk about why that is, some of the impact and the history of Disney music,
Okay.
and then we'll kind of delve into other things. And if we have anecdotes or things that we would like to share about our own experience with Disney music, we can feel free to do that.
Okay. Sounds great.
All right. So a lot of people, and this goes true with a lot of things Disney, and this is one of Disney's tenets as far as their entertainment, is the emotional connection, right?
Mm-mm.
I mean, some people get really wrapped up in the stories that they tell. Some people really have connections to some other part of it, but I think a majority of people have an emotional connection to the music.
Yes, I would agree.
Mm. So, just off the top of your head, what would you say is your favorite Disney song and why?
That's like asking me to pick my favorite child.
Well, we don't have children, so
So it's like asking me to pick my favorite ice cream flavor.
okay.
I know, like somebody out there with kids is now screaming, "Did you just compare ice cream flavors to kids?"
To be clear, we're not saying child flavored ice cream.
Ew.
That's no.
Gross. Yeah.
I just want it clear.
Favorite song. Like, here's my thing. Favorite song changes based on the day, I think. Based on my mood,
Uh-huh.
based on kind of what pops into my head. Like on the way to an event this morning, I heard the Tiki Room. So that has been running through my head all morning long. I wouldn't necessarily say the Tiki Room is my favorite song though, but it is stuck in my head right now. I just can't wait to be king. Get stuck in my head is one of the first ones I always think about. I don't think I can decide on a favorite. I just love it. Well, okay. I'm going to go back to the song that will get rammed into your head on my favorite attraction. There's a great big beautiful tomorrow.
Mhm.
I just love the message behind that. I think anything by the Sherman Brothers I just absolutely love, but like that is one of those songs that just hangs with me.
Sure.
So I'm going to pick that one as my favorite
Okay.
at this exact moment. Talk to me tomorrow, it might be different, but right now, great big beautiful tomorrow.
Okay.
What about you?
So I actually have two.
Okay.
Um, When You Wish Upon a Star, which we've talked about before. We talked about it a couple weeks ago when we were doing our bracket challenge. But then also A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes.
Yes. 2 classic bangers.
Yeah. And I think it just goes along with, you wish it and it might come true. And just the whole musical, magical thing.
Yeah, and I think that's true of Disney music and what resonates with Disney music. Like Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow resonates with me because I'm a very forward-looking person. I don't dwell on what happened yesterday.
Right.
It happened. It's now part of my life. I have to move on.
Right. I mean, if there's more to unpack and deal with, you do that.
But you're always, what's
Right.
the next step?
Right. And it's a positive thing. It's not a, oh God, I'm scared about what's coming around the corner.
Right. And you are a dreamer.
Yes.
You like those big fanciful kind of, one of your favorite things to do is look on Zillow for houses we'll never be able to afford. Right?
Well, in Golden Oak, yes.
Yeah. Anywhere. You get on Zillow and then I start getting messages of houses. I'm like, does she know how much money I make?
I know. I know.
So with that, let's plug our Patreon. If you want us to move into a house in Golden Oak, please come out and subscribe to our Patreon. Joking, of course.
Ow.
People, joking.
Shameless plug. But not entirely inappropriate.
Right. If we get enough Patreons, we'll buy a house in Golden Oak. Spread the word, everybody.
And then we can use our currently only video or only audio YouTube channel to do a house walkthrough.
Yes.
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 So sign up today.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the historical overview of Disney music.
Okay.
So, like, even if you think back to Steamboat Willie, whether it's a cartoon short like that or it's a feature presentation like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which was Walt's first, music has always been a very important part of it. So you think about Steamboat Willie and you think about the iconic theme song of Steamboat Willie. But then you also think about songs that are sort of intermingled in that, like Turkey in the Straw, which is the song that they play with the animals on the boat.
Right.
Which was a very popular tune in 1928.
Was it?
Yes.
That wasn't a Disney original tune.
No, it was not.
Interesting. So he paid for the copyright for it, or was it public domain when he used it?
I don't know that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. But I mean, even that, you have like the Disney originals, and then you have a piece that would pull into culture.
Right.
Right. And then you look at like the feature presentation, like we just said, Snow White. You've got a classic song like Someday My Prince Will Come, which is the Wishing Well song. And then you've got the banger of Hi Ho, which I think has transcended that story beyond anything probably anybody could have imagined.
Yeah, you look at Seven Dwarves Mine Train, they're not doing A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes.
Well, that's not from that movie, but okay.
You get whatever song you said.
Someday My Prince Will Come.
Yeah, Someday My Prince Will Come. But that whole attraction is about hi ho, it's off to work we go.
Yes. Yep. And the thing that I love about Disney and how they use music is that they always integrate the music into the narrative of the story. So
tell me more about that.
So it's either helping to move the story along or to give additional depth and development of a character.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So very musical theater-y.
Yes.
Like most of the music in musical theater carries the story along, develops a character, something.
Yes. Yep.
Was Walt a fan of musical theater? Do we know?
We don't know, but he loved music. I mean,
right, just because the way he has his movies with music set up is very musical theater-y.
Well, he knew though that that was very part of entertainment.
Right.
And why would you not have music in something to help in? I mean, even if it's background music,
Right.
because like even in the days of the silent movies, and we're stepping outside of the Walt era, but like they would always have a piano playing or an organ playing or something like that just to add
Yep.
some depth to the story.
Yep. Sorry for distracting. Sometimes I just let my thoughts out.
No, it's okay. Let's talk about the rise of some of the more iconic soundtracks that we know very well today.
Okay.
Things like The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast,
Mm-hmm.
Aladdin. Yes, we've got the Sherman Brothers, and I think some of those songs, most of those songs are pretty iconic in themselves, and a lot of things we wouldn't have that I don't think would be nearly as successful without the Sherman Brothers. Like Mary Poppins, It's a
Mm-hmm.
Small World definitely would not be,
Right.
and some of those other things. But what would you say from a feature film is your favorite soundtrack? Does this change like the song?
It kind of does, but I think no, it probably doesn't. My favorite movie soundtrack will probably always be the original Aladdin soundtrack.
Okay.
Just banger after banger. Robin Williams' talent is on full display. That soundtrack is just so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think if there's another one that I like better. Like again, depending on mood, I think like the Up soundtrack
Mm-hmm.
is fantastic if you're kind of in the mood for classical.
Yeah.
Because that's not a musical movie. It's not, the characters aren't singing in that movie.
No, it's very ambient.
Right. It's more of that classical feel, classical style of music. But I think as far as like true soundtracks, I would go with Aladdin. Like that's the first one that popped into my head.
Mm-hmm. For me, I would have to say, and this should come as absolutely no surprise whatsoever, I would have to say Hunchback.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Mm-hmm.
Again, because you're a big fan of choral music.
Yes.
And that's a big choral music kind of show.
Mm-hmm. And it's just so, like, there's almost a haunting element to it, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's that choral music and like, Frollo's a really evil dude,
Yeah.
right? But then you think back to other soundtracks like Sleeping Beauty. And again, there's that mix of Disney original music, and yet Sleeping Beauty was a ballet first.
Right.
So a lot of the music is either a stylized version of the music from the ballet or straight up ballet music.
Right.
So yeah. But yeah, Hunchback is my favorite soundtrack.
It's a good one.
Yep. So then like when we go back and we think about soundtracks of like The Lion King and that kind of thing, you see the advent, if you will, of Disney commissioning compositions by Howard Ashman and Alan Menken. Elton John and Tim Rice did the music for The Lion King. More recently, we've had Lin-Manuel Miranda do a lot of music for Disney. We've had the Sherman Brothers with some of the more classic titles. So it's just really interesting, and I think that all kind of started around the age of the Disney Renaissance, which technically is from 1989 to 1999.
Mm-hmm. The golden age in my book.
Square fingers and all.
Mm-hmm.
During that era, and I won't disagree with you that that is kind of the golden age of our lifetimes
Mm-hmm.
as far as Disney goes. There were 10 movies introduced into those in that span of time. So I think we can touch on each of them and sort of like we'll start to see how meaningful the music for those actually is.
Right.
So the first one in 1989 was Little Mermaid.
Okay.
You've got Under the Sea, Part of Your World, Poor Unfortunate Souls, banger, banger.
Yeah, very singable
banger.
movie.
Yes.
Is that the sort of advent to that time frame where the movies really became really singable?
Yes.
Like where Disney became known for the singable shows? Like
Yes.
everything before that was good musically, but not necessarily you walked out of it singing along.
Right.
Trying to think if I'm wrong about any of that. Like you think back to Lady and the Tramp, you think back to Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty.
I mean, it just kind of depends. It was more of a hit and miss thing where now
Right.
it seems like every Disney movie is
Has
just musical extravaganza.
it's just as good as a sing along as it is a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
So 1989 we had Little Mermaid. 1990 we had Rescuers Down Under.
Underrated movie.
I don't know that I've seen it. I've seen the first Rescuers and I
Okay.
did like it. That was not a musical movie as far as I remember. It's been forever since I've seen it. But Rescuers Down Under, I don't know that I've seen it. If I have, it's been eons.
Well, we know what we're doing tonight.
Maybe. 1991 was Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
I don't think we need to touch more on that.
Right. Rescuers got done dirty being released between those two movies.
Yeah, we've had that conversation before, though, about Princess and the Frog being released like right outside of Tangled and some of those other pieces
Yeah.
as well. Aladdin was in 92.
Okay.
Lion King was 94. Pocahontas was 95.
Okay.
Hunchback of Notre Dame was 96. Hercules was 97. Mulan was 98. And Tarzan was 99.
Is there a bad movie among those?
No, in my opinion, no. Again, I'm not really a fan of the animation style. But that is neither here nor there.
Right.
It's not what we're talking about today. So yeah, I think like just thinking about those 10 movies, I can't think of one of them that a song doesn't instantly pop into my head when
Right.
you think about the titles of those movies.
Yeah. So, audience, let us know what's of those 10 movies, what was the first song that you thought of?
Mhm.
Or here's a more next level question. What songs do you remember from Rescuers? Like, I don't remember that being a sing-alongable musical. That feels more like the old Disney, where music is a big part, but it's not a part of the characters.
Mhm.
Sort of like, I would equate that one to Ratatouille, where music is a huge part of it, but it's not a part of the characters necessarily.
Right. And that brings up an excellent point because with Ratatouille, none of the characters stop and sing a song.
No.
It's all the ambient music, it's all of the environmental music, it's all of the it kind of helps move the story along and set the scene, but it doesn't develop the characters, it adds to the narrative.
Right. 100%.
Yep. So let's talk about some of the emotional impacts of Disney music.
Okay.
We don't have to rub salt in the wound that I know is still open if you don't want to. But a big part of it, I think, and I think this is where it hits most people, is in the nostalgia feels.
Yeah, I think it's nostalgia. And I think about the emotions of music, like going into the parks for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
If it was just a fireworks show over the castle, half the people wouldn't, like, nobody would cry. It'd be, oh, that's cool, fireworks show. But as soon as you put that Disney music with it and tell a story through the music or with the music, all of a sudden it grabs you.
Yep.
It internalizes it more.
Yep.
I don't think people realize how much of their life is a musical. Like everybody's like, I hate musical theater. Not everybody. The people that say I hate musical theater are, I just don't like it because people just stop and sing.
Yeah, but they're telling their story.
They're telling their story. And how often are you singing in your car? How often
Or
are
in the
you
shower.
or in the shower? How often are you listening to music as you do something? How often, like, your life is musical theater.
Right. And how often do you have songs that you hear that you haven't heard for a while and you're instantly taken back to high school or
Right.
whatever the case may be, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. I love this.
Right. Let me give you a non-Disney example of that happening to me recently.
Okay.
In our class that we do at the gym,
Yes.
she was playing music from the 90s, 2000s
Okay.
for us to work out to. And Closing Time came on as one of the songs. And it instantly put me back in local college bar with you and our friend,
Mm-hmm.
that I was the designated driver and I could be on the other side of a crowded, noisy bar talking to someone, and all of a sudden that song would come on and I would hear my name being called out to the singing of that song. Like, I know who I want to take me home. There's a pause, a rest, and I would hear my name from across the bar every single time. And so I hear that song now and it just brings me back to that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, what 21 to 24-year-old dude wouldn't just be absolutely thrilled to hear his name from two attractive women across the bar just shouting his name, that he got to take them home that night. But that's beside the point.
Yeah.
But I think Disney music, to bring it back to the Disney thing, the same thing happens, right? I am never going to be able to hear La Cuerda May and Because She Loved Me the same way ever again without thinking about the Epcot fireworks show.
Luminous.
Luminous.
Well, and we're going to talk about that next because, like, well, the nostalgia piece is built into it from either childhood memories or family traditions or something like that. And that's both movies and Disney experiences like vacations and things like that in the parks. Disney music also touches on those universal themes like love, loss, hope, adventure, those kinds of things. And to your point, with that particular mashup in Luminous, wow.
Right.
Ugh.
Right. And whoever arranged that show could have easily just done one or the other.
Right.
Because that section of that show is talking about loss.
Yes.
So you could have easily, and it would have been a super impactful moment in that show no matter what. But you put those two things together, you mash them up with all the other stuff going on. It again, I'll use these words again. It grabs you.
Yeah.
And holds on and is like, let's get into your feelings.
Yeah.
Versus this is just music to listen to. This is going to dig into your soul a little bit.
And to that point, it's a very immersive experience. Like, you become part of the show.
Yeah.
During that moment. If for none of the other parts of it, that one is the one where it's like, you're in this now.
Yep.
You are part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a song? Is Luminous the one that has the part of me, or was that Harmonious?
No, that's Luminous.
In Luminous too.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about a couple other songs. We already talked about Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
And the overarching theme on that one, as we discussed, kind of the hope, adventure, and looking toward the future.
Right.
Let's talk about the song Let It Go.
Okay.
Because you've said some very interesting things about that song to me that I think is worth discussing.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, of course, it's probably one of the most popular songs from a Disney film.
Yeah.
Maybe ever. But I don't know that it deserves the credit as a quote-unquote great song and a power ballad. I mean, it's obviously a power ballad.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
It's inspirational, and this is a
right.
woman power song, but
it's not as empowering as maybe what you think it is.
There it is, and tell us why.
So the more I listen to that song, again, singable, love the song, don't get me wrong, I think it's a fabulous song. And I think it develops the character well.
It does.
But I think Scott's opinion incoming, so just beware of that. I think in the name of having a female lead sing a powerful song, I think we as humanity grabbed onto the wrong story about that character from that song. So let's think about what's happening before and during that song. So she thinks she just killed her sister.
Right.
She's brought winter upon the place she's supposed to be ruling.
Right.
And her decision point is to leave it all behind.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be fine without me.
Oh, will they? Because of what you just did.
Right. Well, even without that, they'll be fine without me. How is that female empowerment?
It's not in my opinion, but you know how I feel about that whole thing.
Right. But you just don't like the movie. Part of your reason is it's overhyped, not necessarily the story itself.
No.
But yeah. I think where I'm coming from, though, is instead of facing your problems head on, you're just going to go isolate yourself and build a universe of your own where you don't have problems. You are basically what she's saying. And again, listeners, come out and tell me why I'm wrong. If I have this wrong, because my perception of that song has changed over time, the more I've listened to it. The overarching theme of that song is, I know you need me to be a ruler. I can't be that ruler. So I'm going to go build this ice castle up in the mountains, and you all can just fend for yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Not a true female empowerment anthem would have been more like, look, I know I screwed up. We can fix this together. We can do what needs to do. I'm not going to run away from this problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be the strong, powerful person I know I am, instead of, I know I'm a strong, powerful person, but because I'm scared of that, I'm going to run away from it. Empowerment to me is I'm going to take this power I don't know how to control, and I'm going to figure it out to help instead of just run away, because the right thing to do is to isolate myself.
Mm-hmm.
When have you ever found a time where a leader's best option is to isolate themselves?
Well, but I think you also have to look back, and I can't believe I'm defending this. You have to look back in her story and her history, because like her power is, when she was younger, was triggered by emotions and feelings and all these other things. So, and she even says it in the lyrics of the song, conceal, don't feel.
Right.
So she has been led to believe this entire time that you have to stuff everything down.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, to that point, I think a more empowering situation would be like, I'm done with that.
Right.
I'm going to figure this out. I scare myself, and I know what I'm capable of doing.
Right.
But I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to use it for good.
Right. So the empowerment part of that is, I no longer, she's saying, I've been told conceal, don't feel.
Mm-hmm.
The only way I can do this and be true to who I am is by isolating myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the message she's sending.
Mm-hmm.
Is I can only truly be myself if I'm by myself.
Right.
Is that the message you want your little girl to grow up with?
Well, it's going to be a lonely life.
Right. Or is it conceal, don't feel, like you said, I'm done with that BS.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to show people who I really am, and I'm going to see if I can figure this out together.
And it may be different than anybody else, and it may be scary, and it may be all these other things, but we're going to get through it together.
Right. And I know she's scared because she thinks she's going to hurt people because of her power, because she doesn't know how to rein it in.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it advances the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish that people didn't turn that into an anthem of, this is how people should react when things don't necessarily go their way, or they don't know what's happening. Because again, great song, it moves the story along. I think as we pull that out into isolation, I think we lose sight of what we were trying to, what that character was going through.
Yes, I agree.
And so we turned it into this, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be true to who I am. But that whole song is about retreating.
Right, and getting away from everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the cold never bothered me. To hell with you all. It doesn't bother me.
Right.
So I'm going to go be by myself. I could probably go on about that for days. So if you're listening, come out to our socials and let me know. Do you agree with kind of my thought process here? Or is there something in that song that I'm missing? Is my interpretation wrong?
Right, and that might be fuel for an entire episode
Right.
on Let It Go.
Right. As Ted Lasso says, do I have something to learn here?
Very nice. So let's kind of go back to what you've already touched on a little bit. So the emotional impact of Disney songs is pretty evident in a lot of different ways. I think it's very intentional the way that that's done, and it starts from composition square one, right? So you can evoke a lot of emotion with music, even if there are no lyrics or any of that, with key changes, different orchestration styles, um, and lyrical storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And the point that you made earlier, where you have people leaving Disney movies singing the songs, not so much talking about the story.
Right. Yeah. If you think about all of your favorite Disney movies, do you love them for the story they tell? Or do you love them for individual characters and songs?
It depends on the movies, but it's
Right.
usually the latter two.
Right. I'm trying to think of a single Disney movie that I think maybe Inside Out. I love the story of that one, of just like what a kid's going through. But I think Little Mermaid, Aladdin, I think all of those, the story to me is less important than the music.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're stories that have been told for millennia.
Right.
It's just a retelling of somebody else's story.
Right.
So then it becomes about the music. It becomes about the characters.
Yeah.
Versus, and how they develop those characters through music and that kind of thing.
Right. Okay. Well, let's take a look at Disney music's impact on pop culture, because I think it's very fair to say Disney music, as with most things that have anything to do with the mouse, are not just a subset of culture. It's a
Mm-hmm.
culture pretty much all by itself, but it has evolved into mainstream culture.
Right.
So the music transcends the films, and it's become an integral part of our culture, with the theme parks, Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Disney on Broadway does musical theater like nobody's business.
Yep.
And social media too. I mean, how many times do you watch a reel or something like that and there's Disney something?
Yep.
Even if it has nothing to do with Disney, there's Disney audio with it or
Right.
something.
Yep.
And that's pretty powerful.
It is.
That's pretty powerful. Oh, and then you get into the whole like popular artists doing covers and remixes of the songs. And I know they kind of started that, like specifically at the end of Beauty and the Beast. You've got Celine Dion and
Right.
Peebo Bryson singing the theme song. And most of the ends of movies, you've got a popular artist singing like the main theme through the song. But I think the first time that we really noticed that hitting radio was probably around the time of Frozen with Let It Go.
Mm-hmm.
If not then, I can definitely point to a more recent example of We Don't Talk About Bruno.
Yes.
That song was number one for I don't know how many weeks
Mm-hmm.
on regular countdowns.
Right. How much of that is driven by the change in how we consume music?
Explain.
In the 90s, 80s, 90s before, well, if you go way back, you heard music on the radio.
Yeah.
And it kind of stayed the same, but all of your top charts and that kind of thing were built off of album sales based off of what people were listening to on the radio. So you think back to the 80s, 90s, 2000s, Disney music didn't make it to mainstream radio. Very rarely you had a Beauty and the Beast type song that a pop culture, and that's why Disney did that, right? They wanted these popular artists to sing these songs to get them on the radio and get them on the charts, because that's just another way to market your movie. But now, I don't remember the last time I heard a song on the radio. If I turn on the radio, it's to listen to a sporting event. Now, I know that's just me. Other people turn the radio on in their car, and there's still stations out there playing music, that kind of thing. But I would say the majority of people listening to music are streaming it. There's Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, all of these different ways to consume media and consume music changes the way things show up on charts too. Do we really think a song like We Don't Talk About Bruno ever would have made it on a pop chart when we were in high school?
No.
But yet it comes out and it's the number one song for several weeks. Because people go see it, it's a catchy tune. I'm going to go look that up online and put it in my music rotation.
Mm-hmm.
So the question then becomes like, how much of that popularity of music, or do you see less people making remakes, like popular musicians making remakes of things because Disney doesn't have to let them?
Right.
I think that's super interesting. Like the way we consume media has changed so drastically.
Yep. And it's so, like, it's very much more curated for us
Right.
than it ever has been before. Like you said, with Apple Music, you can build playlists and it can be anything you want on a playlist.
Yep.
It can be from different artists. It can be from the same artist. It can be different genres of music. It can be the same genre of music.
Yep.
I mean, it's just how it's fed to us and how we consume it.
If I go onto Spotify and play a Scott mix, my guess is within 3 or 4 songs, there's going to be a Disney song.
Yes.
And not because that's necessarily what I want in that moment, but because the music that I'm searching for, the music that I'm listening to a lot is very that type of music, whether it's in preparation for episodes of this show, whatever, or just listening to the car, or they're easier to sing along to, all of those kind of things. All of a sudden, just music is curated specifically for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes those different playlists that I build. That, oh, you built 3 Disney playlists, 1 90s playlist, and 1 2000 hip hop playlist. Your hip hop playlist has 6 songs on it. Your 80s one has 400 songs, and your Disney one has 2000 songs. We're going to recommend more Disney music to you.
Right, because it seems like this is what you like.
Right.
And then you listen to it and you're not wrong.
No. Again, we give up a lot of our privacy for the sake of convenience, which, whatever.
It's a different discussion.
Different discussion for a different podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
But so, yeah, so as we're thinking about the impact on pop culture, I also think we need to think about the impact of global culture, because like as they're opening up different opportunities for expanding the Disney empire into international areas, they put the movies in different languages, so the songs are in different languages, and I think that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah, you sent me a reel the other night of the Jungle Cruise in Tokyo Disney Sea or Tokyo Disneyland, whichever one it's in, and how much different that was, but still the same.
Right, like you could identify exactly where they were,
right,
and what they were doing, and there was just little differences based on the culture.
Right.
But overall, like, this is still the backside of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with the music.
Yeah.
And how many Disney shows do you see? Well, heck, I've commented to you, like some of the things we watch on Disney Plus, they go through the regular credits and then it goes straight into Mexican credits and then Japanese credits and then like all the different ways that people need to be acknowledged. Yeah, global. We are becoming a more global society.
Which is good.
Yes.
Yes. So let's talk about a little bit more. We know that storytelling is like the main thing of Disney.
Yes.
Right? And the power of the music as part of the storytelling process is huge. And it always has been. The songs are used as narrative devices, both from an entertainment standpoint as well as advancing the plot and aiding character development.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like one spot that we noticed that really particularly recently is in Encanto when they're doing We Don't Talk About Bruno. The song tells his entire story and we haven't even met him yet.
Right.
And you kind of get this instance of like, who is this Bruno guy and are we going to see him? And you kind of start setting up for that anticipation of meeting Bruno.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's a whole lot going on in that song that I don't think a lot of people are aware of as far as like the instrumental structuring of it and all of that, just because of the importance of everything.
Right. Yeah, I actually watched a YouTube video on like the musicality of that song. Maybe I'll see if I can find it again and maybe throw it in the show notes, but if not, go out and Google We Don't Talk About Bruno and see if you can find the YouTube video that's all about how it's built chord progression wise and musically. It's fantastic. You don't even have to be a music theory person to be just fascinated by how it all comes together and why it works the way it does.
Yep. Yep. But you look at songs like Part of Your World from Little Mermaid and how that's Ariel's want song.
Mm-hmm.
Like she wants to be a human. She wants to be on land. And then she sees this guy go back onto a burning ship to save his dog. Why wouldn't you fall in love with that?
Right.
And then that becomes another part of that want.
Right.
Like it just kind of realizes itself. Like she wants to be with him. She wants to be on land and she wants to be a human.
Yep.
And then you look at songs like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. That tells us who Belle is and how everybody in her village thinks she's an absolute whack job.
Right.
Because she's not chasing after Gaston and not just a complete airhead.
Right.
And not falling into simple village life.
Right. Yep.
So the memorable songs that define characters, we kind of just talked on a couple of those. But many of the songs become synonymous with characters that either perform them or are involved in the song.
Right.
And so you think of one when you think of the other. Like Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. We all know that's from Mary Poppins. It's a Sherman Brothers banger. You know exactly where that song is from and who they're talking about and who's singing it and what is happening.
Yep.
Like
Be Our Guest.
Be Our Guest, Under the Sea. It's just your mind instantly goes.
Yep.
I think that's pretty powerful.
It is.
And as far as like the evolution of Disney music, so like we've talked about quite a few of these already, but like Frozen and Moana and Encanto, the music has actually changed the way that it's presented and the style and the feel of those films, but it still has something to link it back to the Disney classic way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's pretty cool.
It is.
Also, you have the collaboration with contemporary artists like Lin-Manuel Miranda, Idina Menzel, and how those collaborations have reshaped Disney music in general.
Mm-hmm.
You're Welcome is another perfect example of that.
Yep.
Like something totally singable. It takes you right back to Moana and Maui.
Yep. And that goes back to that golden age that we were talking about earlier, or the Renaissance or whatever era it was. But you look at something like Aladdin he's not a singer musician, but that kind of working with Robin Williams, Tim Rice, Elton John, like that's been a thing with Disney for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
Of these collaborations with the best musicians of their day. Walt went out and hired them, made them part of Disney, and made them write specifically for Disney. Whereas as times changed, Disney was like, we want your musical styling, but we also don't want you to be an employee because we can't afford you.
Right.
So we'll just pay you for this work.
We'll pay you for, it's a project-based thing.
Right.
Not a studio.
Right. You're not a studio musician. Like, can you imagine an Elton John wanting to be a Disney studio musician?
No.
No. Can you imagine Lin-Manuel Miranda wanting to be a studio musician?
No.
It's like, I love like thinking about the history of that and how far we've come. Like, I know that the Sherman Brothers did other things outside of Disney, but they are primarily known as Disney studio musicians.
Which isn't a bad flex.
No. Maybe even the last Disney studio musicians.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think that gives us a good idea of Disney music. We've kind of talked about some of the main parts and points of Disney music, from the nostalgia to the emotional impact to the cultural significance, especially in recent years.
Yes.
And basically the just storytelling ability that music actually has, and what a big part that actually plays in Disney presentations. And that, again, that's cartoon shorts, feature films, attractions in the theme parks, cruise line, the whole empire is basically one big song. So, listeners, let us know what we got right. Come out to our socials. We've said where you can find us ad nauseum, I believe.
And it'll be in the show notes.
But come out and let us know what your favorite song, soundtrack, and your feeling about Disney music overall is. Tell us what we got wrong. Tell us what we got right.
Yep, for sure.
Thank you so much for listening. We do appreciate each and every one of you. Share us with your friends. Let us know how we can make the show better.
100%. And remember, there is always a great big beautiful tomorrow.
And we'll see you real soon.